No degree, 6 months, and a real shot at data analysis. That sounds unlikely until you look at what entry-level analyst work actually demands in many companies. The gap is not pedigree. The gap is proof. If you can show clean thinking, useful projects, and solid fundamentals, you become much easier to consider, even against applicants with stronger credentials on paper. Most hiring managers are not buying your backstory. They are buying reduced uncertainty about whether you can help on week 1. Can you turn messy information into a clear answer? Can you write a query, build a chart, and explain what changed? Those skills often matter more than the logo on a diploma, especially for practical reporting teams. 6 months is enough for an entry-level transition if you stay narrow and work consistently most weeks. You are not trying to become a machine learning specialist. You are trying to reach job-ready competence in spreadsheets, SQL, dashboards, and business communication. Focus turns 6 months from short into sufficient, especially when you avoid scattered course collecting. A data analyst collects, cleans, explores, and explains data so a team can make better decisions with less guesswork. In plain English, you take scattered numbers and turn them into something useful. That might mean tracking sales, understanding customer behavior, spotting errors, or measuring operational performance across weeks, regions, or product lines. This is where many beginners waste time and delay applications by months. A data analyst usually answers business questions with existing data. A data scientist often builds predictive models and works deeper with programming and statistics. If your goal is speed, analyst skills get you employable faster and with less tool overload, which matters when time is limited. Think in 4 layers. First, spreadsheets for quick analysis and lightweight cleaning. Second, SQL, which means structured query language, the standard way to ask databases questions. Third, visualization tools like Tableau or Power BI. Fourth, communication, because insight that stays in your notebook has no business value no matter how technically correct it is. Your first month should begin with Excel or Google Sheets because they teach the language of analysis cheaply and fast. Learn sorting, filtering, conditional formatting, pivot tables, basic charts, text cleanup, and lookup functions. You need comfort with rows, columns, and messy files before databases make sense, especially files with blanks, duplicates, or odd date formats. Do not try to master every spreadsheet feature. Prioritize the tools analysts use constantly in real weekly reporting. Your first win should feel practical, not academic. When you can take a raw file and make it readable, you are already building the habits employers expect, like consistency, traceability, and careful error checking. At the end of month 1, complete a tiny project. Use a public CSV file on sales, movies, sports, or retail orders with at least 500 rows. Clean it, summarize it, and make 3 charts. Then write 5 sentences explaining what changed, what stands out, and what decision someone could make from it, even if that decision is modest. Month 2 is where your credibility grows noticeably, because SQL is a hiring filter in many analyst postings. SQL lets you query data stored in tables instead of isolated files. Learn select, where, order by, group by, join, and aggregate functions like count and AVG. These are the moves behind a huge share of entry-level analyst tasks, from weekly reports to ad hoc questions. If spreadsheets make you useful, SQL makes you scalable. It teaches you to ask sharper questions, work with larger datasets, and reproduce your analysis instead of rebuilding it by hand, cell by cell, every Monday morning. Do not memorize syntax in isolation like vocabulary flashcards. Learn SQL by solving business-style prompts. Which product sells most? Which month has the highest revenue? Which customers have not returned? Query writing sticks when every line is tied to a question someone might actually ask at work, such as why returns rose 12% in March. A realistic pace is 10 to 15 hours a week, not heroic bursts followed by burnout. Over 6 months, that gives you roughly 240 to 360 focused hours. That is enough to become competitive for junior roles if those hours produce projects, notes, and repeatable skills instead of endless course hopping or passive video watching. Now add basic statistics, but keep it practical and tied to decisions. You need averages, median, percent change, distributions, correlation, and sampling at a beginner level. You do not need advanced proofs. You need to understand what a number means when a comparison is misleading, and where noise can fool you, like tiny sample sizes or seasonality effects. A junior analyst is not hired to impress people with formulas or statistical jargon. A junior analyst is hired to be reliable with numbers, deadlines, and straightforward explanations when stakes are small but decisions still matter. In month 4, choose one dashboard tool, Tableau or Power BI. Either can work for beginner portfolios. The important thing is consistency. Learn how to connect data, build filters, design simple charts, and arrange a dashboard so someone can understand it in under 30 seconds, not 3 minutes of clicking around. Beginners often make dashboards that look impressive but answer nothing specific. Keep yours simple. One headline question, a few relevant charts, clear labels, and one short written conclusion. If a hiring manager has to decode your work, the project loses most of its value immediately, because confusion cancels out technical effort. Month 5 is when your learning turns into evidence that another person can actually review. Build 2 or 3 portfolio projects around realistic business questions. Retail sales, marketing performance, shipping delays, support tickets, or customer churn are good starting themes because employers understand them quickly, even outside your target industry. A strong project is not just screenshots pasted into a folder. It shows your thinking from start to finish. The employer should see the question, the process, the result, and the recommendation without guessing what you actually contributed, what assumptions you made, or where the data came from. Your written explanation matters more than many beginners realize, because weak writing can hide decent analysis. After every project, include a short summary in plain English. What did you analyze? What patterns appeared? By month 6, stop acting only like a student watching lessons. If you lack direct analyst experience, highlight analytical work from other roles and quantify it when possible. Maybe you tracked inventory, built reports, improved scheduling, reviewed customer trends, or measured performance. Reframe tasks into outcomes. Employers need evidence that you already think in patterns, process, and decisions, not just that you stayed busy. The most common trap is overlearning and underbuilding. You finish course after course, but you never produce visible work. Another trap is chasing Python too early because it sounds more advanced. Python can help later, but for many entry-level analyst roles, SQL, spreadsheets, and dashboards are the faster path, despite what online advice sometimes claims. A hiring manager scans for 4 signals in under a minute. Can you structure a problem? Can you work with messy data? Can you present findings clearly? Can you finish what you start? Your portfolio does not need 10 projects. 3 thoughtful projects can send a much stronger message than 10 incomplete ones, especially if each includes recommendations. Here is the part many people miss when they compare software lists. Employers are not mainly hiring you for Excel, SQL, or Power BI. They are hiring you for judgment. The tools are just the delivery system. If your work shows sensible questions and careful reasoning, your value rises quickly, because tools change but judgment travels well. A beginner interview may include simple SQL questions, chart interpretation, a case prompt, or a discussion of your project choices. Notice the pattern. They want to see how you think. Why did you group the data that way? Why did you choose that metric? Why does it matter, and what would you do next with better data? The candidate who can explain trade-offs calmly often stands out more than the candidate who rushes to sound advanced, because practical teams usually prefer measured judgment over fragile, performative confidence. Do not only search for the exact title data analyst. Also look at reporting analyst, operations analyst, business analyst assistant roles, revenue analyst, or analytics coordinator positions. Your first step does not need to be perfect. It needs to move you closer to analytical work, income, and better future titles within 12 months. First, build around core tools, not trendy extras that mostly impress other learners. Second, finish projects that answer real business questions. Third, practice explaining your work simply. Those 3 habits create a stronger candidate than a long certificate list with no visible analysis behind it, even if the certificates come from famous platforms. A simple weekly structure keeps you moving when motivation drops after the first few weeks. You do not need to sound like an expert to start applying. You need a believable foundation and evidence of follow-through. Many strong beginners underestimate how much trust a tidy portfolio, a thoughtful resume, and a calm explanation can create in a first screening call, especially compared with nervous, unfocused candidates. Learn spreadsheets, then SQL, then basic statistics, then dashboards, then projects, then job search materials. That order works because each step supports the next one and reduces overwhelm. It is less glamorous than random learning, but much more effective if your goal is employability, interviews, and a first offer within reach. Build one clear project this week, then build the next step after that. Small proof compounds faster than big intentions. Career